On this episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, we have Jake Montgomery joining for a fitting Q&A. We accepted a lot of questions from viewers and listeners, and he will answer them, step up to the plate, and give you guys all kinds of insight on those. And then also, we're going to take a look, deep dive into all the equipment being played at the Ryder Cup this week. So a very big episode, a fun one of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. Hey golfers, and welcome into another episode of Second Swing Thoughts. Sean Bauer, the co-host, here with me for another good one. We've got really two big things in this episode. A deep dive into the equipment being played at the Ryder Cup, and we've broken it down in terms of most popular. We've got some trends, some really unique items that are going to be in the bags as well. And then also we have Jake Montgomery answering your fitting questions as well. So this is a good one. I think it hits on a couple really big things, of course. We'll dive into the Ryder Cup here to start, but, that's, of course, I think the golf fan, it's always an exciting week because it's different golf, but it's also really exciting golf.
Yeah, one of the best weeks of the year. If you're a golf fan, I'd put this in Masters Week. It's probably your top two. Obviously, the Ryder Cup only comes along every 2 years. Out at Bethpage Black this year. Obviously, has some major history. You've had a Tiger Woods win there, Brooks Koepka just 6 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So a pretty cool course. Should be a rowdy crowd, living up to that, New York reputation. So really good stuff. Obviously, the Europeans are the defending champs. They bring back 11 of their 12 members from the 2023 team that pretty much dominated the U.S., especially early on. And the only difference is they traded brothers. Nikolai Højgaard was on the 2023 team. Rasmus Højgaard on this team. I saw someone on Golf Channel last night saying that genetically, it's the exact same team.
That's very true.
Yeah, because they're identical twins. So Europe obviously brings a very formidable team. The U.S. kind of a mix of, some modern stalwarts and then plenty of rookies. You got, Justin Thomas is the most experienced, making his fourth appearance. Then you have the likes of Scotty Scheffler, who is making his third appearance. Crazy that, 4 years ago, he was considered that was a bold pick by Steve Stricker to bring Scotty Scheffler, and now he's the best player in the world. So really, really interesting team dynamics. Curious to just kind of hear your thoughts on how everything's setting up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really good Ryder Cup. I think, on a neutral site, I think I lean Europe just because the experience they have, bringing back genetically the same team, but 11 of the same 12 players from 2023, which they, that one they dominated. And I think there's I think the vibes, so to speak, the team camaraderie certainly has to be better for Team Europe in that regard. Same captain as well. So in that sense, I like Europe. But again, we've seen time and again how the home crowd and the home course advantage can be a huge swing in these Ryder Cups. So I think it'll be really good.
Yeah, when it comes to course up, the Europeans did such a good job in 2023 where they, for a lot of the holes when they could on par fours, especially longer par fours, taking wedges out of the American players' hands because the Europeans were better from longer distance irons than the Americans were, and that showed. In the U.S., they're playing Bethpage a little shorter than they played the 2019 PGA, so I'm curious to see how often are they, playing these par fours to the point where the U.S. players can get wedges in their hands for their second shots, because if you look at the stats, the U.S. has a much better collection of wedge players than the Europeans do. So I think, not only home crowd, but home course setup and setting it up to your team's strengths. Rough, I don't think, is as deep as it has been for previous majors. That's another advantage of the U.S., who has a lot of power players on their team. Europeans, they still have plenty of distance, but, not quite the depth there in power. But it's going to be really interesting. It's experience versus,
kind of talent in a way.
Talent. Yeah, the U.S., obviously you have your J.J. Spahns, your Russell Henleys, and your Ben Griffins, who are kind of your career grinders, right? All very good players. You've seen, obviously, J.J. Spahn had quite the year. Mm-hmm. Ben Griffin kind of came out of nowhere. Russell Henley's just quietly one of the best players in the world. But then you have your Scotty Schefflers, your Bryson DeChambeaus. So a lot of firepower there. I can't wait. So I want to ask you, we're going to do some predictions here. So I want I want a surprise pairing.
Surprise pairing, okay.
Like something that, people, it can be either team, and if you want to do one from each team, you certainly can. Then I want the MVP of each team, so which player is the key to them winning, who's going to have the best week, and then your final prediction of who wins.
Interesting, okay. So a surprise, I'm looking back at some of I'm thinking back to some of the last couple Ryder Cups. We're almost certainly going to get the Xander Cantlay pairing, I would imagine. One I'm thinking of here, and I think I like this because of the dichotomy of their games. I like Bryson and Russell Henley to be together. I don't know if that's much of a surprise, but I think their games are so opposite that I think it actually could work in their benefit when it comes to that especially that foursomes or the the best ball format, where you have a guy that can be aggressive and go after the flag. And I saw there was actually an image or a video today of Bryson taking aim at the first green, cutting the corner. So obviously Russell Henley's not going to do that, and so you kind of have the best of both worlds there. So that's one for USA, and for MVP. The obvious pick is Scotty Scheffler. I'm going to go a little bit off the wall here and go JJ Spawn. A couple times this year, he seemed like he was really up for the task in these big, high-octane events when there was pressure packed. And he also learned from it maybe back at the Players where, there was, the playoff with Rory there. I think now with this type of style of golf, I think he's going to fit right in and I think he's going to break out in this Ryder Cup.
All right, and your prediction on who wins?
For who wins? I really, really want to say Team USA. But I think if I had to pick one and be objective about it, I think I got to go Team Europe. The returning experience is just too much. I would trust those guys a little more, I think, than what I've seen on a Team USA. There's some good records on Team USA, but I love the team camaraderie and the vibe that Europe brings year in and year out, and this team seems to be the same way.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the first visiting team to win since the Miracle at Medina 2012, where Europe, erased a 10-6 deficit there in the final day to win. So interesting, yeah. So my, surprise pairings, I think it's all going to come down to Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah.
Now he's too good, right? Obviously, I think in 4 balls he can play with anyone, right? Because he's going to be a super aggressive player. I like your Henley pick. I think like a JJ Spawn would make sense there too. But I think I don't know if it's going to be 4. I think it'd be a 4-ball pairing, but I could see Bryson and JT going out together, just 2 fiery guys.
Yeah.
Obviously, both have played very well, but you kind of especially with JT, you never know where his ball is going off the tee. If he can put the ball in play off the tee, like he's going to be as good as anyone out there. But that's kind of been his Achilles heel this year. Is he just doesn't have any confidence off the tee. But I think just personality-wise, they're both, I think they're all about Team USA, and I see that being, especially if the U.S. needs a momentum shift, sending those 2 guys out in 4 balls, I think would bring a lot of action. On the European side, 2 years ago they pretty much had Rahm, Rory, and Victor as all playing in separate pairings, and all 3 of them were playing at the top of their game. Well, Victor's not quite up to where he was 2 years ago.
Sure.
So I'm going to go with a Victor Hovland, Rory McIlroy pairing. I don't know if that's a shocking pairing. I don't know if they've played before, but I think Rory's, he's probably the catalyst of this European team. When he's playing well, they usually play well. When he struggles, that's when they lose.
Sure.
Or not struggles, but when he gets beat. So, and I think Victor, just to maybe get him a little early confidence, I could see them putting that pairing out too. And as for the prediction, I think the U.S. is winning. I think the home crowd matters. I think the home course setup matters. I think the wedge play is going to make a big difference. And I think the U.S. has a great mix of power players and guys who just know how to grind. I think of the Russell Henleys, the Ben Griffins, the J.J. Spahns. Those guys aren't overpowering a golf course, but they're going to grind out pars.
Yep.
And they're going to make long putts. And I just think ultimately, as long as the U.S. doesn't lose the foursomes 4-0 in the opening session, the rest of the Ryder Cup last year was pretty even other than that first session.
That's
true. Look at the final score. So I think the depth of the U.S. team will be there. But
I'm going to add one more thing, too. I didn't really talk about an MVP, so to speak, for Team Europe. I love Tyrrell Hatton in this environment because, he's the fiery type. And this year, when it has been the big events, the majors, he did really well in the majors in 2025. And so I like him in this environment with the crowd yelling at him and stuff, I think this is when he'll thrive, and he'll be a tough one to fend off, I think. So I'm looking for him to have a really good week.
The U.S. wins if Justin Thomas, if he's the catalyst, in my opinion. If he wins, I don't think he's going to play all 5 matches, but I could see him playing 4, for sure 3. If he can get 2.5 points or more, I think the U.S. is winning. On the European side, I think a guy who I think he has all the talent in the world. He hasn't had the greatest year after a hot start, but I think Ludwig Aubert, because he's got the game to kind of overpower a golf course and hit whatever shot he wants. And I think he's going to be paired with one of those stalwarts.
Sure.
And I think you find that young guy who kind of rises to the occasion. I was debating between him and Bobby Mack. I think Bobby Mack will thrive in this.
I just love Bobby Mack, too.
I do, too. He's a great player. But, so that's our Ryder Cup preview. And then we are now going to get into kind of the Ryder Cup equipment, the clubs that these guys are playing. We just kind of did a deep dive on their most recent what's in the bags. Obviously, it's all subject to change based on what they're feeling, or maybe they've been trying out a new club and they're finally going to put it in, or the conditions of the course. But we kind of got our most recent updates from Golf WRX, kind of partnered with them here. And we just kind of looked at, are there certain clubs that are played more often than others, certain brands? Are there certain equipment trends, mallet blades, mallet putters, blade putters? And then we also just want to highlight some of the unique clubs.
Yeah, there's a few really good ones in that category.
Yeah, so starting with kind of the most popular equipment. For the driver's side, it's not a runaway winner overall when you factor in all 24 players. You have 8 Titleist drivers out there, so about a third of the field playing a Titleist driver. U.S. a little heavier. They have 5 of those 8, so almost 50% of the U.S. team playing a Titleist driver, 3 on the Europe side. Interestingly, the 5 U.S. players all play in GT. The 3 European players play in a previous generation.
Oh, wow.
So, interesting there. When it comes to fairway woods, this one was kind of a clear-cut winner. TaylorMade fairway woods. 11 players have a TaylorMade fairway wood in their bag, including a lot of non-TaylorMade players.
I think that's back-to-back years now. TaylorMade's had a really, really good showing in general on tour with their fairway woods.
Yeah, and the selection of fairway woods, we'll get into more on the unique, but there's clubs from 2025 and 2015.
Yep.
So there's a wide selection of TaylorMade fairway woods. 4 on the U.S. playing TaylorMade fairway woods, 7 on the European side. And then kind of not shocking, but Vokey wedges, the most popular wedge. You have 12 players that have at least one Vokey wedge in their bag. 11 have them in their primary scoring wedges, so their SAM wedge, their lob wedge. And then golf ball Titleist dominates. I think was it 13 or 14 of the players have it. 9 are playing Pro V1X or some Pro V1X prototype. So nothing surprising there, but and then the irons it's kind of a big mix of everything, shockingly. But those were kind of the 4 areas there really was a standout among the rest.
Yeah, I think that, there's a couple things in there that I think are worth noting. The TaylorMade fairway woods and the way they're running away, I think that's worth emphasizing again. That's back-to-back years now with QI10 and QI35. It really seems like TaylorMade has knocked those fairway wood, series out of the park. But I think overall, to see Titleist on top with drivers, where if you were to say that 8 or 10 years ago, that would have surprised a lot of people, I think, just given it shows the leaps that they've made in the driver category with talk about the TS series, TSI, TSR, and now GT. They've been making some really good drivers.
Yeah. Interesting enough, on the putter side, it's a little between the 24 players, 6 Scotty Camerons, 6 Odyssey, 6 TaylorMade.
Oh, wow.
Those are the tops among. And then you have, your Bryson Sick putter. You have
a lab in there,
a lab, a Bettinardi.
Sure.
A few pings, but it's just interesting that there's not a consensus. It's 666 across the board. So that was pretty good. And then we looked into, kind of the top trends. There are certain things that we saw that kind of stood out about, what these guys played. And the biggest one, you and I were talking about it yesterday, mallets versus blades when it comes to putters. Blade putters were all the rage, kind of what everyone played, and then slowly but surely mallets came along, and they've just kind of exponentially increased their footprint, where I think now there's more players on the PGA Tour, you can correct me if I'm wrong, playing a mallet putter now than a blade, and it is overwhelmingly mallet putters here. 20 out of 24 is their latest reported what's in the bag. Now, like I said, there could be some changes. but that's 90% of the field
Significant.
playing a mallet putter.
That is wild, but also I'm not that surprised to see. Now, what I would love to do is go back to the Ryder Cup and, even 2021 or 2018, and to see what that number looks like, because I bet it would be very different. I think people are noticing. I think a lot of people are switching into these mallets, and it seems to be working for a lot of guys. I mean, the most basic example of this is Scotty Scheffler and how dramatic his success has turned by switching into that Spider Tour X, and he just has been dominant since then.
Yeah, and the TaylorMade Spider Series, Spider Tour Series, and the Scotty Cameron Phantom line, the two most popular series / models between those. Another thing was, this one's not like too shocking of a thing, but when it comes to having the pitching wedge as part of your iron set, right? So
sure.
A lot of players you'll see on the PGA Tour, you'll see a lot of guys with a 46-degree Vokey and whatnot kind of acting as a pitching wedge. But interestingly enough, 15 of the 24 guys are playing a pitching wedge as part of the iron set, which kind of goes to show you, like, if most of these pros are playing a pitching wedge, then we should all probably be too.
Yeah, we probably should. It's a good indication of so many of these guys opt for just a little more forgiveness when they can. You're seeing also more of these iron sets, A, are combo sets, and B, are more of a cavity design versus, blades as it used to be back in the day.
Yeah, and you had Kevin Kraft talking about the GT13 Tour fairway wood and just kind of talking about the trend on the tour is just more forgiveness. Like, you're still performing, but you're just getting more forgiveness. If you miss a little bit, it's going better.
Yep.
You're seeing that here in those pitching wedges. And then finally, the other kind of trend we saw was high lofted fairway woods. Almost a third of the field has either a 7 or a 9 wood in their bag. 7 out of the 24. One of them just recently, Ben Griffin, put a 7 wood up into his bag. Took out his Mizuno utility iron, which that's also not surprising. You're seeing a lot more players opt for these kind of higher launching clubs. So
yeah, higher launch, more stopping power with those. It's a different look for sure to get used to if you're making that switch like Mr. Griffin is, but in most cases, as long as you're not already a really high ball hitter, and most people can't get those long utility irons or long irons super high in the air, most of the time these high lofted woods are the better play.
And yeah, going into, so those are kind of the top trends in equipment. Now we're going to look at some of the most unique clubs, and there's so many cool clubs here. I don't know where to start. Obviously, Bryson DeChambeau is kind of an anomaly. Every club in his bag is unique.
Everything in his bag.
So we aren't going to go too deep into Bryson stuff, but I'm just going to list some of the clubs. You can kind of let me know which ones are your favorite. Harris English, he has a really cool bag. G400 3-wood, G410 crossover, and a Ping Scottsdale Ho-Hum putter. Then you have Patrick Cantlay and Justin Thomas both playing 915 fairway woods. JT the FD version, Cantlay the F. Cantlay, he's got one of the most unique bags playing. He's got a TS2 7-wood, also 718 AP2 irons that he combos with a Strixon ZX5 Mark II 4 iron. That's pretty interesting.
Okay.
And you got Bobby Mack's Arrow Burner 3-wood. You have Justin Rose. That's 10-year-old fairway wood. You have Justin Rose playing an M6 fairway wood. Victor Hovland I210s, G425 LST driver still. And then a new one, Ludwig, he plays that White Hot Versa #1, but he actually put a AI1 insert in that putter now.
Yeah, so that AI1 insert is really good. It seems like players have taken liking to that. But it's a good list. I think it shows how much, there's value in comfortability, and if you find something you like it, I think so much of the equipment now, there are gains to be had, but at what cost to something you're so comfortable with is kind of what I'm seeing with these guys. Cantlay and JT playing a fairway wood that's over 10 years old. Robert McIntyre doing the same thing. And then you have, Victor Hovland. This was actually a conversation I had with some of the guys in the Ping truck earlier this year was, they were trying to work on, they're building him a set of I-240s to test out and play and see if they're going to work for him. And they're kind of like, yeah, well, he keeps going back to I-210s and G425 because he was playing his best golf a few years ago with those in the bag. And so I think, and he did win earlier this year as well, going back to that stuff. So it's fascinating to see these guys playing older stuff still. We love it too as we geek out on equipment because this stuff is all over our stores.
Yeah, really, really cool. I think my favorite is the Bobby Mack, the Arrow Burner 3-wood. Yeah. Just because, there's no more white golf clubs anymore, so that's kind of cool. And then I think, regardless of what your opinions are on Patrick Cantlay, his iron combination to mix brands like that for one club I mean, it's not unheard of, but it's interesting. You could also mention Justin Rose going with
He has
some
a Uke one too, yeah.
Titleist and some Mira combos, and he does like a full combo set, not just one. So a lot of cool clubs. We have blogs on all of these up on our website. You can kind of do a deeper dive onto all the equipment that you'd like, and let us know, what you think of all these. So yeah, that wraps up kind of our Ryder Cup equipment breakdown.
Yeah. Tell us which club or which bag in the Ryder Cup is your favorite, because there's some really good ones up there. So go to the website, check out the detail and the deep dive. But now we can get to Jake Montgomery. So Jake sat with us, answered some really good questions from all of you about fitting, about whether it's, some of the stuff was interesting about lessons versus club fitting. There's dive into that topic as well. So stay tuned here shortly. We've got Jake Montgomery answering your fitting questions. We now welcome on the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. It is Jake Montgomery. If you've watched YouTube really at all, the Second Swing YouTube channel, you've seen Jake, or social media as well. Jake's all over. So Jake, we kind of asked the people for some questions this week on the socials, and we got several good ones here that I wanted to send your way here. This is simply, Q&A with Master Club Fitter Jake Montgomery. So we're going to start kind of up in the driver space. First one from Tony here. He says, when would you fit someone into a 10K driver versus a non-10K or game improvement driver?
Yeah, so I would say there's kind of a select group of people that I would really put into that driver. For the most part, it's going to be a player that doesn't necessarily struggle as much with club path and face angle as they do strike location. So
okay.
MOI, moment of inertia, it's basically just forgiveness on a miss hit as far as ball speed goes, where you're going to see more ball speed out of a toe strike or a heel strike, and it's going to go a little bit straighter. But it's not necessarily going to help you if we're coming across a lot, opening the face up a ton. That's where really a more draw bias driver where the center of gravity is placed more in the heel is going to help straighten that out. If someone's hitting more of a kind of over draw or a hook, getting them something that's going to be flatter, more CG kind of in the toe portion is going to help straighten that out. But if you're just someone that is hitting it center, heel, toe, high, low, it just kind of all over the place, and you're looking for more consistency, a 10K MOI driver is going to be really good. TaylorMade offers one, Cobra offers one, Ping offers one. That's going to be kind of the player that I'm getting into that driver, someone that's not necessarily looking for shot shape correction, more just kind of overall forgiveness on a miss hit.
Yeah, that seems to be where those 10K MOI drivers thrive. I mean, that's the idea, right? Is to, basically provide the miss hits with as much performance as possible. So that's a good question, though, because those are popping up, and I don't know necessarily that this 10K or high MOI, the strive for high MOI with drivers is not going to go away.
No.
And so kind of differentiating, because obviously the draw bias heads are going to correct that slice really effectively. So here's a question from Max. This is a pretty general one, so there's a lot of ways to answer this one. Max is asking, how do you know what loft for the driver you should use?
Yeah, so I mean, I can get a rough idea having a conversation with someone if I just kind of ask them about ball flight. I'll ask them, do you typically hit it high or low compared to your playing partners? Is it high into the right or high into the left or vice versa on the low side? But I don't really know until I see someone in my bay with their swing on TrackMan. Attack angle, face angle, club path are really what's going to determine kind of what loft we're getting into, strike location to a certain point as well. Loft is really just a way of managing launch and spin. For most players, we're looking for around 12 to 14 degrees of launch and 22 to 2,600 RPMs of spin. That's going to give you plenty of carry without really negating your rollout. Because theoretically, if you want to hit the ball as far as possible, you'd want to launch it at 17 degrees and 1,700 spin. But if that face is open or closed at all,
right,
see you later ball. It's going really, really far offline. So that spin rate helps kind of mitigate those misses. It does hurt your distance a hair, but the benefit of hitting more fairways just kind of outweighs that. Again, just it's tough to say exactly what loft someone should play unless I kind of see what their attack angle is, where they're hitting it on the face, that type of thing. That's where I'd really just say come into a Second Swing store. Even if it's just 2 minutes in a demo bay, I can tell someone pretty quickly what loft and flex they're going to need to get into. We also have a great online fitting team that can kind of work through that question as well. But that's one that there's no general rule necessarily. It's kind of more of a trial by trial basis.
Sure. I think there's also maybe a myth or misconception out there that a lower lofted driver means more distance. And I think you think about that with like Bryson, for example, and some of these guys, the long drive guys are playing drivers that are very low in loft. And so I think there's an association with, hitting the ball further with lower lofts. But really that's just because those guys swing so hard and so up on the ball that to get to those launch numbers you're referring to, they have to have a lower loft. So that's kind of, it's all about, like you said, managing launch, spin, and those key metrics that result in good driver performance.
That's a great point. I mean, I would honestly say it's more often that I gain someone distance by going up in loft than actually lowering it. I can't tell you how many, especially senior players, I have come in with like a 9-degree stiff flex driver, or I get in a 12-degree senior and they gain literally 20, 30 yards of carry. So lower loft does not always mean longer distance. It's all about optimizing.
Sure. So here's a good one from Cameron. Do you have to be a low handicap golfer to use a low spin or a tour driver?
That is a great question. The answer to that is absolutely no. Anyone that struggles with a lot of spin can benefit from a low spin or tour driver. The reason it's called the tour driver, it's a little smaller head. It's not as forgiving from a ball speed standpoint on a miss hit. It might not be quite as straight as a higher, more forgiving MOI head. But if I can take someone's spin from 4,000 to 2,500, I'm gaining them, depending on the club head speed, 20 to 40 yards. So managing spin is very important in driver fitting. If the way to do that is simply getting them a lower spin head, I will not hesitate to do it. Especially someone that misses out to the right, they're generally creating a lot of spin because they have an across path with generally a little bit more open face. Titleist, I'll grab a 9-degree set it to A3. So that's a 9-degree set to 10.5 degrees in an upright setting. So the face is very closed. There's more loft on it because we're generally swinging down. But that more forward CG allows them to take that spin way lower than where they are with their gamer. TaylorMade's a great one for that. Ping is as well. Ping is on the higher spin side of things. So even in their LST, they generally spin a little bit more. So if we're really looking to kill spin, I'm probably going Titleist or TaylorMade. Callaway makes a great one too, especially their kind of unicorn driver, the Triple Diamond Tour Draw. It's a draw bias low spin driver. It is not something that really any other manufacturer makes. I wish that they would because it's fantastic for the right player. But to kind of get back to the starting question, you do not need to be a low handicap to play a tour model. It just needs to be set up for you.
Yeah, and I think, again, there's a lot of golfers out there. I think especially now as the game has grown the last several years, you're getting a lot of, athletic, maybe younger folks that are picking up golf maybe earlier than a lot of people used to. And the result of that is a lot of, very athletic, higher swing speed players, but maybe not necessarily controlling it or maybe generating a lot of spin with their natural motion. Maybe it's baseball players picking up golf and they see this kind of high slice, low spin driver, really good for those players. So kind of the last one that's really focused on off the tee. This is from John asking, what's your favorite mini driver if you're looking for a full driver replacement off the tee?
Yeah, so I would say the Callaway Elite Mini is probably the best option if you're looking to replace your driver completely. It's the biggest head size of any of the models. I can also set it in an upright or draw position without changing the loft. Most players that are going from a standard length driver to a mini, someone that struggles with a slice or just really leaving the face open, shorter shafts are easier to turn over, close the face, so it's going to help with that slice there. And then just the bigger overall driver head size is still going to offer the most forgiveness. Mini drivers are not more forgiving than a standard size driver. In fact, I would say they're less forgiving just from a pure head standpoint. The reason that players sometimes can hit them better, hit them straighter, a shorter shaft is easier to control, so they're finding the middle more often. But on a miss hit, they're not inherently more forgiving than a standard driver. But if you're looking to replace your driver completely, you're looking for something that's shorter, again, something that's easier to control, hit more fairways, that Elite Mini is really good.
Yeah, and a lot of times, too, you talked about the player that might not be the fastest in swing speed. Sometimes the added loft of these mini drivers can actually help them gain more distance.
Absolutely.
With that. So, okay, now transitioning kind of probably just to more general fitting questions that can really be applicable to, throughout multiple facets of the bag. This is Gene asking, what time of the year should I get fit?
Yes, I would say that's a great question. Honestly, this kind of fall going into the off-season time, I think is a great time to get fit. There's a few different reasons. One, the customer knows they're swinging the best right now. They've had the whole summer to play.
Yep.
They've usually kind of have the best grasp on their swing this time of year. And 2 is fitters know the product as well now as they ever will. At the start of the year, we're still kind of finding what works best for certain scenarios. By this time of the year, we have it pretty locked down where we can confidently fit someone into a set of clubs as we've had the whole year to kind of work with them. You also have the added benefit of the entire offseason to get used to them. It's not always just, I got my new clubs, now I'm a great player. Usually every year it takes me at least a few weeks, if not a month or 2, to get fully used to my new set of clubs. So having that added time in the offseason can be really valuable for players.
Yeah, that's a great point. I haven't even thought about that because my initial instinct into what you were saying was going to be, well, most of the time we get new clubs early in the year, in January, February, so maybe that's time to get fit. But maybe I should look at this time of year, later in the fall. So here's a good one, kind of in a similar vein, asking about when to get fit. This is Jason asking for a new golfer. Should a new golfer get fit for clubs if they have an inconsistent swing? So maybe it's is it something where, if the golfer is still new, picking up and getting used to the game and their swing a little bit, is it worth a fitting yet? How do you kind of approach that conversation?
Yeah, so I think you should absolutely come in and work with a fitter. You might not need to sign up for a full tour van fitting, but there are still valuable things that we can discover, like what length you should be playing, what lie angle, what style of club do you need? Do you need something draw biased? Do you need something fade biased? We offer a spec fitting on our website. It's a 30-minute consultation that's totally free. You get to work with a fitter. They kind of go through the beginning process of a fitting and then give you a few recommendations that you can then take to a sales associate to try out in a demo bay. When you're just starting out, are you going to notice the difference between a G430 and a Stealth or any other option that's out there? Not necessarily. We're still kind of trying to fine-tune our swing, but getting you in the right static measurements will always be important for a golfer.
That kind of bleeds into this next question. How important is getting fitted for clubs as a beginner? How do you balance equipment, lessons, and practice on a budget?
Yeah. I'll be the first one to admit as a fitter, lessons are extremely important. A golf club can only take you so far. If a golfer cannot hit the middle of the face and they're consistently hitting it off the heel or off the hosel, there's only so much as I can do as a fitter to help them with that. If you can pair lessons and a proper fitting together, that is when you can really kind of accelerate your progress there, because a lesson is going to address kind of the core issues or faults of your swing. A golf club can be designed to help with those issues, but it's not going to take you from swinging 14 across to swinging 2 from the inside. There's nothing in a shaft or a club that's going to change your club path or how you necessarily deliver it. We're more so trying to match what you're naturally doing to a club. So if you can address those core issues and then get a set of clubs that kind of helps bring you the rest of the way, you'll be in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, and I do think they work together really well because in a fitting on TrackMan, you can learn a lot about how you swing, with those numbers like your swing path and your face angle. Those things tell you a lot about what you're doing and why your ball is maybe going way right or way left. It's usually because of those two numbers. Yeah. And so you can learn and put a numerical value to those, and that can help you also with this journey of in your lessons of optimizing your swing a little bit. So next one here, Barrett has a couple questions related to high swing speed players. So he says, do you find it harder to fit very high club speed golfers because of the lack of options, the faster that someone swings, and then how do you optimize equipment for really fast players?
So I would say on the use side of things, absolutely. It is a lot harder. We just don't have as many extra stiff options in iron sets or drivers, especially wedges. That can be a challenge where maybe we're looking at different stores to kind of see what inventory they have and then just kind of piecemealing stuff in the store and then maybe ordering the rest of it from another store. On the new side of things, I would say, honestly, the biggest challenge is really just managing their height, especially for really high-speed players. Fitting them for irons can be really challenging because their land angle coming in is 57 degrees. I've had a player named John. He swinging a 7-iron, I want to say at 108. He's ridiculous.
Yeah.
His land angle was reaching 60 degrees with the 7-iron. Wow. We got him down to 53, and I was thrilled by that. Now, he was still hitting it 150 feet in the air, but we got his spin rate from 8,000 to like 62, I think it was. So it was at least a lot more manageable of a ball flight. But Yes, I mean, at a certain swing speed, there's only so much you can do to affect ball flight without them hitting their 7-iron 240 yards. On the new side of things, it's not as much of a challenge based on options as it is just the physics of the golf swing. If you swing so hard, the ball is going to go high. It's going to spin a lot. If your face is slightly open or closed, it's going to miss by a wide margin.
Yeah. That's just kind of the reality of, physics, right?
It's a blessing and a curse.
The faster you swing, the farther you can hit it, but also the tougher it is to keep control of that golf ball. So here's a couple actually from Jake. How do you fit for grip size on that one? And then the next question here, kind of not super related, but I wanted to pose it to you anyway. Looking for a lob wedge for South Florida conditions, primarily around the green. So curious about the conditions down there. Mm-hmm. Also asked about grip size.
Yeah, so for the first one, the first thing I'll do is I'll just kind of hand someone some grips and just ask them, how do these feel in your hand? Because that's what matters at the end of the day. We have a chart from Ping that we kind of measure their palm size and then their longest finger, and that gives a recommendation. But, I've had guys with big hands that prefer standard size grips. I have guys with small hands that prefer jumbos. At the end of the day, you want to just play what works best for you. What I'll do in some scenarios is I'll run over to our store and I'll grab a couple different options. I'll try and find a 7-iron that's as similar as possible with different grip sizes on there. Just let them hit it and just kind of see what's comfortable. Because at the end of the day, comfortability is what matters the most for grips. And then as far as South Florida conditions, honestly, I haven't played a lot of golf in South Florida. I'm not 100% sure what kind of conditions that they're playing in, but for a general rule of thumb, if you're playing in a softer, more kind of spongy material, you want something with a wide sole with a bit more bounce on there because it's going to help prevent that kind of chili dip or get really underneath the golf ball. If you're playing a hard pan like Texas or Dallas or Scottsdale, for example, you're going to want something that's got a little bit more of a narrow sole, low bounce, something that you can really get under the ball with ease.
Yeah, it really is dependent on exactly how firm or soft the conditions are.
Even just in Minnesota, depending on the course you're playing, it can vary completely.
Yes.
Pioneer Creek to the Refuge up here, if you're a Minnesota golfer, you know those two courses. Pioneer Creek in the summer can be really hard and burnt out, and the Refuge is always pretty marshy just based on the land that it's on. So, even just based upon where you play most of your golf, that can affect what grind and bounce that you're going to get into.
Sure. So last couple here are pretty basic ones, but I think there's still some key fitting principles that are involved here. So from Joe asking, can you adjust a club flat or upright to get more center contact hits?
Yes, that is a great question, Joe. There are definitely some things you can do with lie angle to change strike location. Typically, if a player is hitting it out of the heel, they're usually pretty upright, where the toe is kind of getting down into the ground, which is causing the portion of the club that's actually making contact to be in the heel. So I'd bend that a little bit more upright. And then if a player is typically hitting it more toe side, flattening it out can help with that. I would say heel strikers are a little bit easier to address there. Toe strikes aren't as tied to lie angle, but just making sure that the club is even at impact can make a huge benefit when it comes to just strike location in general. It can be tricky to balance sometimes. Let's say, for example, like for myself, I deliver it very upright, but my miss is left. If I go upright, I'm going to hit it more left, but if I leave it where it is, I'm not going to make as clean a contact. I have kind of found that for myself and other golfers too, matching lie angle is what is most important because you want to make sure you're making crisp contact. I can always change my swing, change my face angle a little bit to kind of counteract that. I might hit a couple more pulls around, but as long as my golf ball is landing pin high rather than way short of the green, generally you're going to be in a better position.
Yeah, that's a key component of this whole thing too, is like which, the misses, how do you manage those and how club fitting can impact that? So last question here, again, another basic one, but I think there's more to it than meets the eye. How do you know if someone should be a regular flex or a stiff flex?
The easy answer is just swing speed.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that goes into that. There are people that might traditionally fit into a regular flex that are extremely aggressive in their transition, where they might not be swinging out of their shoes, but from here to here is really, really quick, and they're putting a lot of load into that shaft, where we might need to go into a stiff flex or at least a heavier weight to help manage that transition. Or you have someone like myself where I don't really go after it too hard. I'm pretty smooth, where I play about as light of an extra stiff as there is. I really could play a low spin profile in a stiff flex shaft if I wanted to, swinging at about like 108, 110 miles an hour. That's another question where like you for the most part, you can go kind of by the book where if you're swinging a driver at 90 to 100 miles an hour, you're going to be in a stiff flex and be fine. But if you can come in and get dialed in with a fitter, we can really look at how you're delivering that shaft, and that will really determine what flex we're ending up in.
Yeah, there's kind of the guidelines and swing speed, right? That, on a basic level, you can send someone that way, but you might realize in a detailed club fitting, a tour van fitting, that actually, the stiff flex is not right for you. You actually need an extra stiff because of your transition. But so this has been good. We kind of bounced all around here.
Yeah.
We got a lot of questions answered from you, the viewer and listener. But Jake, this is fantastic. Thanks for giving the people all the insight they were looking for.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to help.
And that was Jake Montgomery talking club fitting, answering questions. I think there was some really, you could tell there was a couple questions that he was like, oh, I get asked that all the time, and so he had all these answers ready, but definitely used some good insight. I thought his answer to the question about when to get fit in the season was very unique. I didn't think of the perspective, as I mentioned there, about getting fit this time of year, sort of in the fall, leading into the winter, but there's a lot of good points he made about why this could actually be the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. Always enjoy having Jake on. He just, hearing his perspective and what he sees, always good stuff from him. And, we want to keep doing more of these viewer submitted Q&As.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you have any questions on any of our videos, just keep commenting them, and we'll do another with Jake. We'll get Kevin Kraft for a Q&A. We love doing these because we want you to know what you want to know. And why not let our fitting experts help answer that question for you.
Exactly. So we have more Ryder Cup stuff this week as well. So this week for Live at Lunch, be Blaine Seitz joining the program to talk a little bit more deeper into the golf clubs at the Ryder Cup and specifically how they've done in fittings, and kind of the what he maybe from a fitting perspective sees with these equipment, these clubs, and maybe how these players are optimizing them for their game. So that'll be a fun discussion for Live at Lunch. But then of course we're rolling along with YouTube club comparisons. We got a bunch of stuff coming through the pipeline there on the YouTube channel. Some really good ones up this week, so check those out.
Yeah, and on the second swing, on the podcast side, we got a special series coming out, the McCulley sisters.
Yes.
They're kind of having their own podcast now. So it'll be on our YouTube channel, so keep an eye out for episode 1 coming out here soon. And then on the second swing side, we have our Ryder Cup contest going on, so head to secondswing.com. You can sign up, enter for a chance to win some, free custom fit driver and iron set, a free driver, a set of wedges, or even a second swing gift card. You have until the 28th to get your entry in, and you can earn some bonus entries on our social media pages, so head there. And then we also have our fall golf specials going on, so if you're looking for some deals on some golf equipment, that is a great place to start.
And if you're last minute, you're shopping for a gift or something, you're in the Twin Cities area, there's a little bit of stuff left from the PGA Championship merch. That's some fantastic prices if you happen to be in the Twin Cities area. So check those out. Subscribe to the channel. Tell us in the comments who you think is going to win the Ryder Cup, which team, and what the score is going to be. I'd be interested to hear what those predictions are. Stay tuned for more content on the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week on the Second Swing Thoughts podcast.